This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Hopes for a swift end to the Middle East war faded on Thursday after U.S. President Donald Trump vowed more aggressive strikes on Iran, sending oil prices sharply up again in a blow to consumers around the world. Stocks slid and the dollar gained after Trump said military operations would be intensified without offering the timeline that investors had sought for ending hostilities against Iran. "We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong," Trump said in a Wednesday evening primetime speech.
OPEC Plus is likely to weigh a further oil output increase when 8 members meet on Sunday, 2 OPEC Plus sources said, a move that would position key producers to add more barrels should the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important oil route, currently shut by the US-Israeli war with Iran, reopen. At its last meeting on March 1, OPEC Plus agreed to a modest output boost of 206,000 barrels per day for April, after holding output steady in the first quarter amid concerns of oversupply, just as the US-Israeli war with Iran began to disrupt oil flows from key Middle East members. A month later, the war has led to the largest oil supply disruption on record.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Asia's spot liquefied natural gas slipped this week as high prices curbed demand, while the start of Golden Pass LNG in the US alleviated some supply concerns. The average LNG price for May delivery into Northeast Asia LNG was estimated at $19 per million British thermal units, MMBTU, industry sources said, down from $19.30 per MMBTU last week. Demand mitigation measures and initial Asian demand destruction, given such elevated outright LNG prices, simply doesn't work for many industries. Alongside headlines around Golden Pass startup have somewhat increased the market's perceived ability to absorb a more prolonged disruption to LNG flows, said Kesha Sumit, senior analyst at Energy Aspects.
Soaring fuel prices have been extraordinarily beneficial to biofuel producer Verbio, which is seeing rising demand as countries and companies seek ways to secure supplies and cut energy costs, its chief executive said on Thursday. Germany-based Verbio produces renewable fuels, biomethane and bioethanol from locally sourced organic materials, such as food waste and agricultural residue, and is therefore shielded from the negative effects of the Middle East conflict. It has production sites in Europe, North America and Asia. "We are one of the very few absolute beneficiaries from the current situation," CEO Klaus Sauter told Reuters in an interview. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Gold prices fell on Thursday as the US dollar and oil prices rose after President Donald Trump said the US would continue attacks on Iran, spurring inflation concerns and bolstering expectations of higher interest rates. Spot gold was down 2% at $4,660.95 per ounce as of 11:22 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 15:22 GMT, after hitting a 2-week high earlier in the session. U.S. gold futures fell 2.6% to $4,686.80. The dollar rose sharply, making greenback-priced bullion less affordable to other currency holders.
Copper fell for the first time in 5 sessions on Thursday on renewed investor concerns over economic growth after U.S. President Donald Trump vowed more strikes on Iran and gave no specific timeline to end the Middle East conflict. Benchmark 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange was down 0.7% at $12,349.50 per metric ton as of 1600 GMT. The metal, considered a bellwether for the global economy, was set to end the Easter holiday shortened week up 1.3% after its earlier run of 4 straight daily gains. Copper is currently trading more like a macro-sensitive risk asset, moving in line with equities, as sentiment weakens around the macro outlook and geopolitical uncertainty persists, said Alexandra Claude, CEO of DBX Commodities.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India's palm oil imports fell nearly 19% in March to a 3-month low as a rally in tropical oil prices, tracking energy markets, prompted refiners to curb purchases and wait for a correction, 5 dealers said. Lower imports could deplete stocks and support local oilseed prices, but may force the world's biggest edible oil importer to step up overseas buying in coming months to replenish stocks. Palm oil imports fell to 689,000 metric tons in March, the lowest since December 2025, down from 847,689 tons in February, per dealer estimates.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.